good day to stay on. Now's your chance. Arsenal City!
Hey everyone, Jack here. Just wanted to check in with you guys before we start this podcast. It's Gary Karsa up today, the assistant manager at Norwich City under Paul Lambert, that fantastic regime that we all experienced just a few years back. The double promotions from League One to the Premier League and a fantastic Premier League season 2. It all ended a bit sourly. Gary, Ian and Paul never got to say their goodbyes at Norwich City. None of them have really done any media with Norwich City up until this point. Gary Karsa reveals all his time at Norwich City and his life after Norwich City as well. This is hopefully a really interesting listen, but I've just watched this through while I'm editing now and realised that we haven't even touched the surface with Gary. We talked loads and loads off camera as well. He wants to come back, but it has to be worthwhile. He drove all the way up from London to film this. So if we can hit 300 likes on this video, there will be a Gary Karsa podcast part 2. Let us know if you guys want it. Enjoy this hour plus video and podcast with Paul Lambert's former assistant manager and now at QPR, Gary Karsa. Enjoy. Hello and welcome back to the TNC podcast for episode number 72. I'm delighted today to welcome Gary Karsa to the hot seat. Gary, what an absolute pleasure. When Chris mentioned that you were coming on, I was really excited because we've had players on before, we've had managers on before. Never have we had an assistant manager on before, or a head of football,
yes,
as you like to call yourself. Gary,
yes.
Pleasure
you
for you to be here, mate. Chris, good to see you as well.
Good to see you.
I'm not sure where to start. Let's first of all start with what's sitting under this table.
Yeah, go on.
Now, first of all, you're currently at QPR. We'll get onto that role in a minute.
Yeah.
You drove all the way down from London for this. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. What's this sitting here? Talk me through it.
And why have you bought it?
Well, it's going to be cold because no, so there's some array hats and gloves.
Amazing.
Absolute legend.
They're last season's, but that's fine.
Thank you very much.
And then the season before, we were with Dry World for a little while, and I watched the podcast, Russell Martin's one,
Yeah.
and watched the clip on the six-a-side game.
Yeah.
Felt quite sorry for you, to be fair, if I'm honest. Not only did you not have the same socks, but you kind of, I don't know how that ball got through your legs. So I thought, right, I'm going to do some socks for you and your mates.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you very much.
What did you say off camera, Gary? You said that you couldn't get into the walking football team, I think?
Well, we've got a walking football side at QPR and I've been invited to join that. Not quite yet, I'm still a little way from that, but I think you could just about make that one.
I'm not sure if I'm even up to that standard.
Oh, I'm enjoying this.
Well.
Anyway, pleasure still to have you here, Gary. Right, let's start from the beginning then.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we'll get onto Norwich in a moment. Let's go from Wickham. Talk to me about how you got into that role, how the relationship started to form with people we'll get onto in a minute, and just kind of that development, because it wasn't obviously your first club, but it was kind of the first notable club, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did youth development for 15 years, head of youth as it were then.
Yeah.
Centre of Excellence.
Is this at Wickham?
Before Wickham, I was at Leyton Orient.
Yeah.
And then prior to Leyton Orient, I was actually in the Premier League with Charlton at the time.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
But that was in a recruitment role, and when the opportunity came to go to Leyton Orient, that was in League Two at the time, I felt, I want that, because it's a job you can actually affect change and affect development. So went to Leyton Orient, did all right there. I also, because again, the size of the club and the resources available, I did the youth team as well for about a year, as well as being the head of youth. And we did all right. We got to the last 16 of the FA Youth Cup, which was a good achievement. Yeah. And we had players in there like Gabby Zakuani, Jason Dimitriou, who's still playing. Gabby's still playing, I think.
Played last night, didn't he, for Newport?
Yeah. So we had a good, Joe O'Carroll, who's went on to Arsenal for a little while. So we had a good kind of group of players, good group of lads. So then Ian was at Wickham with
Ian
John
Culverhouse.
Gorman. Yeah.
Okay.
And what happened was the opportunity to go to Wickham came about by virtue of their head of youth leaving. So Ian said, look, would I be interested? Spoke to John. They said what they were looking for. They explained what the philosophy was and what they were looking to achieve. Again, a small club. And so I thought, that's a challenge, because Leyton Orient at that time, I'd been there 3.5 years. We'd got to a good point. But it's like anything, you know, once you get the best people around you, you educate, you kind of empower them and support them. It's, you know, and you support them and make sure that project is working. It was nice. It was ticking along nicely, and I just felt at that point in my career this was a good challenge, if you like, or a good opportunity to take that further in a different area with a different mindset, with a different culture. So went to Wickham, and it kind of restructured the youth department, and it was not difficult. It was strange coming from a multicultural kind of part of London to Wickham, but nonetheless it was a great project. And from that project, I think we've got players in the league now. You've got Jordan Ibe, signed him as a 12-year-old, I think it was.
Wow.
Matty Phillips, who's now at West Brom, who's at QPR.
Yeah.
Matt Ingram, who's at QPR. Josh Scowen, who's at QPR, funnily enough. Kadeem Harris, who's at Cardiff. Matty Cash, who's at Notts Forest.
Matty Cash, yeah. Great player.
And these are all players that
we produced at Wickham, you know, so we kind of signed them as schoolboys, and the philosophy was brilliant. And at the time, initially Ian was youth team manager.
Okay. So
in terms of players and their ability, we knew that if it was a question mark, Ian would develop them. You know,
amazing.
Such was his ability, and such is his ability as a coach.
So that relationship between you and Ian was developed at quite an early stage in that Wickham.
We actually worked together initially at Barnet in the 90s, late 90s. We both worked for John Still. And at that time, that when they got relegated, that's when I went to Charlton from Barnet. And Ian stayed at Barnet, and then from Barnet he went to Leyton Orient. And I went to Leyton Orient, but not through him, kind of thing. It was, you know, through the department that run the youth, kind of thing. It was kind of a strange setup there. But
so Wickham do fantastic work. Then you move to Colchester United.
Yeah.
Paul Lambert is now in the equation. How is the difference between Wickham and Colchester, and are them relationships similar to the ones you've built at Wickham?
Well, the role was completely different at Colchester. It was, I think the title was, I love a title in football, I think it was technical director. So
sounds fancy.
The owners, excuse me, the owners at the time were looking for kind of a plan to put the club, kind of join all the bits that make up the club. They didn't really have a training ground. They were training at the barracks nearby, and it was one where there was a long-term vision in terms of where they wanted the club to go. New stadium, lots of land around it that was going to be developed. So it was more about kind of building up all the mini departments that make the whole first team football states: medical department, recruitment, S&C.
And you're overseeing all of that?
So my job was to manage and oversee that, put the plan together based on the vision and philosophy that the owners had and the financial parameters by which they worked. So it's quite an exciting...
Essentially you were what the modern day sporting director is.
Yeah,
that's
I suppose.
Now really fashionable, and what Norwich have adopted.
Yeah, it meant that the manager could then concentrate on managing and the coaching stuff. But again, being as it wasn't the biggest club, it also meant that you had to be on the grass and you had to assist with coaching and that, which is fine because I've been coaching for years and years. So.
And Chris, the day that Gary Karsa probably first came onto your radar was Carrow Road.
One of the worst days of me watching Norwich.
Colchester 7, Norwich City 1. We've spoke about it with many people on this podcast before, but let's speak about that day again. What are your memories?
I love you and hate you for that.
Do you know the thing that really stands in? Do you know the thing that really stands out in my mind?
The season ticket?
No. Just before the game kicks off, so we're out there, and then they start singing, the Norwich fans, that oldest song in football.
On the Ball City, yeah.
On the Ball City. And I'm thinking, wow.
Really?
That was unbelievable. It was...
League One. Like, we'd been relegated to League One, yeah?
And that, little thing stay with you.
Yeah.
That, I thought, whoa. I'd never, in all my years, heard anything as intense in a stadium, and I just thought, wow.
Was that part of the romance that potentially sold you the opportunity to come to Norwich?
Well, Ian spoke highly of Norwich,
obviously,
and the opportunity to come in. Look, they were a sleeping giant. So when the opportunity arose, it was one where you think, look, if you don't take that, Colchester's a great club, and they're doing really fine now because they've kind of shifted the philosophy or the vision where they're investing as opposed to spending on players, which is a great thing. But League One, 26,500, 27,000, week in, week out, die-hard fans.
Yeah.
What a history as well. The opportunity to come and kind of affect that and be a part of something going forward. If you don't take it, then you'll always look back and say, what if?
Yeah.
And yeah.
But
So.
what I'm quite interested in is because that day is quite a iconic day as such, because it was a real catalyst for Norwich City in terms of that was when the spark started, and that's when we gained such momentum, obviously. And I would argue that if that had not happened, we probably wouldn't be where we are today. I think we probably would have been promoted to the Championship still.
Yeah.
But it would have taken us probably a wee bit longer, potentially. Yeah. That's all, with all the love and respect in the world to Gunny. And it's quite interesting I'd love to hear your thoughts on, for example, that day, we shipped 7. We had a brand new goalkeeper in goal. Did you feel like the villain? Did you feel like, how did you feel?
We knew we could win. We'd worked ever so hard in pre-season with the group of players that we had, and the style of play that Ian had kind of implemented in terms of, it was pressing, I remember, and it was at points on the pitch that you would press, and we knew that if we did that, that we could get at Norwich. 7-1 was ridiculous, but it wasn't a fluke, was it?
What were you thinking? Like, we
couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There was a lady and her husband behind me who later on, obviously, once we got to know her really quite well, and what a lovely lady. I just felt sorry for her because I couldn't believe, and I had a really bad back that day because the week before I stupidly tried to do an overhead kick and I'd fallen and I'd done what you had done, but worse. And she was really sympathetic in that, and I thought, what a lovely lady. But that kind of symbolises the crowd.
Yeah.
And symbolises the people at Norwich. So we went away, we were proud as you like.
Yeah.
We were proud, and we were kind of one where we thought, right, that's a good footing for us now to crack on.
Tell me about it.
So we went on, I think we played a total of 3 or 4 games, but we were top of the league. We were playing Yeovil on the Tuesday, and it was to be our last game. And I think it was about a week, 10 days from there. We'd beaten Yeovil 2-1, so I think we left. I think we were there or thereabouts at the top of the table.
This is with Colchester.
Yeah, but the project at Norwich was... And I remember driving up on the day, we obviously we came straight from Colchester, and it's like little side roads and what have you. Yeah. So
we don't have a proper road system in East Anglia.
Well, Thetford Road now is superb, by the way.
Yeah.
Superb. And Ian was telling me, of his time here and what a club it was and how, again, describing the fans just want to see effort and commitment and, blood, sweat and tears for the shirt, and you can see why. So, and the rest is kind of history.
I mean, that must have been a real sort of whirlwind month, and the following years that we'll talk about in a moment, even more so. But do you feel slightly saddened that was... I mean, we know there's not much loyalty in football, but what do you think the Colchester fans think about you at the moment? Because, you go to Carrow Road, it's 7-1, and then you leave. Do you think there's any hostility there?
There was, quite rightly so.
Yeah.
Because the club invest not so much money, but the fans invest their hopes and dreams in you.
Yeah.
And Colchester had been in the Championship. They just moved into a new stadium. The crowds weren't taken to that stadium for whatever reason because it was outside.
Yeah. It's a weird ground, isn't it?
Yeah, it's strange. And you kind of give them that belief that we might just be going there and doing something. And obviously that first result of that season, they must have thought, oh, we could actually... And to be fair, the manager that went in after us, Hayley Boothroyd, was a good manager.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing. It just obviously, for whatever reason, didn't quite work out for him, But I think we'd laid the foundation for an upward rise, which is all you can do. It's in football. You could say it's loyalty in certain respects, but it's also opportunity.
Okay.
And if you see there's an opportunity, I mean,
you're only going to get one, aren't you?
Yeah, because there's plenty of managers that I know now that
wish they'd gone,
that had that period where they were being kind of looked at and for whatever reason didn't go. And
was it Warnock that came out this week or last week saying Chelsea knocked on his door and he rejected it and he wished he had the chance? Did you read that quote, Jack?
No,
no, but it absolutely says everything that Gary's saying, that sometimes managers in the past have maybe potentially been too loyal, so now that's why there's this chopping, changing around.
Chris, we all know that you love Gunny, as does all Norwich fans. What were your, kind of think back to that time, what was your reaction when Culverhouse, Karsa, Lambert come to Norwich City? Was it optimism? Was it, oh my God, we've lost 7-1, what does this season hold for us?
To be honest with you, I was in a bit of a football mourning because, Gunny's a very close family friend, loved him to bits. It was a shame that he was always going to take that job, and he had to try and do something to keep them up. And I think that there were a lot of sour grapes in the changing room that came down, that obviously left when we went down as well. Obviously the grass wasn't greener, i.e. Sandy Klingon. There's a few that we can name on that list. So I was personally still getting over the way that Gunny had been dismissed. But because he was a club legend, he is a club legend, undeniably, and I think that it was disgusting, and I don't use that word lightly, the way that he was treated. But when Gary, Ian, and Paul turn up, I'm all over the shop, because these sods have smashed us 7-1 at home, and now all of a sudden they're here. So I love them now, and it's like, it was a really fascinating, interesting situation. But yeah, I was ridiculously optimistic, because in fairness to McNally, when he made it happen, well, obviously a lot of people made it happen behind the scenes, but when it all happened, I was like, Jesus, this guy means business. We've got probably the best, and I'm not just saying this, I genuinely thought we had the best people now to go and do the job that we needed to. But, and it'd be interesting to get Gary's thoughts, I don't think Gunny's efforts weren't appreciated, because of course he was the man that brought in such fantastic players into the club for Gary and Ian and Paul to play with. And I think that fans are starting to realise that now. We would not have signed Grant Holt, if it wasn't for Gunny. Yeah. And that is arguably, in my opinion, and certainly in your era of watching Jack, he is the best player to have stepped on the turf at Carrow Road. So for me, I was all over the place. But I was optimistic. I was genuinely optimistic when they came in the door, 100%.
So, Gary, when you walk through the doors at Carrow Road and Colney, what's the mindset? Is it a complete mess behind the scenes?
Nah,
is it
nothing like that.
So
they needed, it was low on confidence. Obviously, the resources weren't there for obvious reasons. Whatever you want to call the type of spending that had obviously.
But you hadn't been used to tons of resources, had
no,
you?
So it was okay for us. It was more about the first thing you do when you go in for a project. Listen, the bigger the project, the harder in theory it's going to be. But with Norwich, it wasn't. It was about adapting that mentality and adapting the culture and making sure that everyone understood that the glass was half full, not half empty.
Okay.
So when we went in there, it was eyes wide open. We knew, for example, we didn't have a kit man. We didn't have a sports scientist. Chippy, Ian Crook, was doing the kit. We was all chipping in, and eventually we brought a lad
never
in.
knew that.
It was interesting.
I mean,
but it was good. I thought it was brilliant, because the people that were there, the staff, the players, the people that in football, a lot of people are invisible.
Totally
by virtue of where they are, and which you've got to understand, the man at the gate, the man doing the kit, the man doing the ground, the groundkeepers, whatever. Everyone is part of this story, project, cog in the wheel, whatever. So what we did, initially, we sat down. Ian obviously does all the football.
Okay.
Looked at what we had, what we needed. For example, Russ coming in, first of all, Ian said, look, we need someone who's going to affect the changing room. who's going to affect this bunch of lads. They need support. They need.
And Russ was the man you identified.
He was the man.
That.
Yeah, for sure.
And he was the bloody man, wasn't he?
Yeah. And then in terms of the infrastructure of the football club, we said, right, this is what we've got at our disposal at this moment in time. Everyone can do what they're going to do, and everyone needs to help everyone, which is fine. Everyone wanted to do that. So I put this kind of like a plan thing together. It was like a document. So the name of the person, their particular role, a little bit about them, and then a bit about their role as we perceived it, and a bit about their role as they perceived it.
Okay, interesting.
And then what they felt a group objective would be for that particular season. And then everyone had that.
This is like the secret sauce. I'm not sure you should be disclosing this.
I don't
mate.
mind. This is we've got to share.
Yeah.
If it, and everyone had one. So everyone knew who everyone was. Everyone knew what everyone did. Everyone kind of, by virtue of that, kind of respected what everyone did, and if in a position to, helped. So everyone, so it became one team. There was a seamless kind of movement between departments, if you like, because everyone was there to help everyone.
I mean, this is fascinating because what you're explaining here and off camera when we spoke, essentially your role was what Stuart Webber's is now, yet Stuart Webber is so much more public facing. So do you feel like the success at Norwich under your time we're almost replicating now?
If I'm honest, now, looking at what Stuart's done, Daniel, there are stronger foundations.
Okay.
There's a club, this is how I can see it from the outside.
Yeah.
The philosophy is a club-driven philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not a manager-driven philosophy. And it's a philosophy based on stabilising the infrastructure, developing the infrastructure. The fact there's so many young lads in the side, Jamal, for example.
Yeah.
So, that was investment that was made some 5 years ago when the academy. It was Cat 1 when we were there. We kind of helped Rick put it all together and what have you. And they recruited aggressively, but in a nice way.
Yeah.
They knew the type of player they wanted. They knew the fabric of the club, and what was going to be required. And those kids then were, 13, 14 years of age. So they knew what they were doing. There was always a long-term plan. And I think that what they've done, quite rightly so, should be praised because we had a plan. So the plan, I think, was about 5 years to get to the Premier League.
Yeah, I remember it well.
So whilst there was a plan, there wasn't a lot of detail within that plan. And it so happens that we made it in 2, which was unbelievable. Were we ready? Well, year 1, I think we were 13th, 14th.
Yeah.
So that was the foundation that should have been built on.
And who was responsible for putting this plan together?
Well, David, in the first instance, said, look, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to do it. We need to invest as opposed to spend, which is fair enough, and that's including the playing personnel. And then see, the 5 years and what have you. Which was interesting, and it was kind of where myself and Ian were used to working with limited resources.
Yeah.
They weren't as limited as when we were both at Barnet, for example, where, those socks, you would never have got those socks.
I mean, they're nice socks, Gary.
They're lovely
nice socks.
But you'd have never got those socks. Because those socks, if they're not
Quality
used
socks.
this year, will be used next year, will be used the year after.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, it was about juggling what you had. It was about kind of bringing in people that were coming here for the right reasons. So I think now the job that's been done is to be fair, you can see it's a long-term thing, the building. There's no portal cabins. It was after we left. We'd actually sat and kind of, it was the year or the season we got promoted. I'd actually sat and went round to everyone and said, look, within your department, what would you require? The must-haves would be nice to have, and a Brucey bonus if you get it. So, and we kind of put together, because the training ground was brilliant. It's, albeit dated, but it was a good, functional training ground. And then apparently you got taken over by porta cabins, is that right?
Yeah.
All porta cabins, yeah, so... But it was all there kind of thing, but obviously the execution wasn't to be.
Right, Gary, we're through League One. we get into the Championship, and I think Norwich fans, especially my age, Chris's age, and all
I've got
Norwich
to tell you
fans.
about League One first.
Okay.
The funniest bit in League One.
Go on then.
We beat Carlisle 2-1.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that. So, do you remember when Wes retired? I never tweet. I follow tweet, but I sent a picture of him waving a blue shin pad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, saw it.
Well, the story is, we'd got a kit man in eventually, Matty Lewis, lovely kid. Don't know what he's doing now, to be fair, but he's not a kit man. So we go all the way to Carlisle. In the morning, go to do the kit, he opens the bag, no shin pads. Absolute carnage, no shin pads. And
Is this just for Wes or everyone?
No, everyone.
Right. Okay.
Because we have the shin pads initialed in
Yeah.
the bag.
Yeah.
We go all the way to Carlisle, there's no shin pads.
Bit of a
So,
problem.
you know what players are like, they want, you
Yeah.
know, what do we do? So Chip and Matty went to Sports Direct and bought
God,
a job lot of blue shin pads.
this really is Tim.
If I remember rightly, it was never going to be that smooth a ride. So I think we went 1-0 down. Then we equalised. Then West scored the winner. So as he scored the winner, he's taking out the shin pad.
Brilliant.
No one knows the significance of that.
Oh wow.
Matty never ever. That made Matty such a good, conscientious kit man after that, and never forgot a thing, let alone. But it just went to show the strength of the players
Wow.
and the power of that group. That nothing was going to stop them getting
No.
results.
Yeah.
Now
Brilliant.
that's your story from League One. We dropped a text to your
Russ.
friend Russ Martin, and
here we
he
go.
said, "Ask Gary about the time at Wickham and Norwich when he kept getting phone calls from Wendy. I had him going for ages, telling him he was a beautiful man, and he just couldn't work out who it was.
It was him, wasn't it?
After a few calls, he realised it was one of the lads.
Yeah.
Me and a few others would be in tears watching him on the phone in the car
He's got a
park.
great memory. He's got
So-
a great memory.
Talk to me about Wendy.
So, obviously, you get a call. Hello, yeah, hi, this is Wendy. Right, you think, right, it's a parent or it's someone that's, and then they start to describe me, and then, you know, they're kind of not intimate feelings, but certain feelings, and I'm thinking, hang on. So in those days, the phones were them little tiny things, weren't they?
Yeah.
So you couldn't, there was no loudspeaker, what have you. So I'd say, look, sorry, got to go, bang, put it down. Next 10 minutes, bang, it's that again. And this went on, might have gone on for ages. And in the end, I'm thinking, because it was a really good voice.
Was it?
It was a fantastic voice, because it took ages for me to think, hang on a minute, there's something going on here. And because I'm not the brightest, you could see by that. But because, yeah, and it was him, yeah, and the lads, oh, it was superb.
So Russ was Wendy.
Well, as far as I know, it was him, yeah, he's very good.
Amazing.
He's very, very good, yeah.
He
So he
enjoyed
remembered that.
sharing that.
Well done. Yeah, I don't mind it, because listen, it's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
We-
But that shows, I guess, how
Yeah.
tight-knit that group were.
Yeah, and again, you know, just because we sat in senior roles, we were one team, we were one group.
Powerful.
You know, it's very important that everyone is one kind of thing.
League One,
That's
fantastic.
superb.
Championship, talk me through that, because from my memories, it was a whirlwind. Some of the best football we've seen in modern time. What was the secret to that time? Because the squad certainly wasn't the best in the league. We had a few standout players, of course, but what were your memories from that time? Because, you know, we've heard it from players. I don't think we've ever heard it from behind the scenes, almost.
Our plan was to consolidate.
Okay.
We thought, right, we've done really well to
Really?
be provided. So let's consolidate. Let's get to where we're going to get to, and then have a concerted push
Wow.
the following year. So, Ian, who kind of, in terms of the style of play, the formation, the way we approach games, his attention to detail is frightening. So in my years, I would say, just a little side, I would say that probably Ian Culverhouse, Simon Ireland, who's assistant head coach at Notts Forest now, and Andrew Impey, used to play for QPR.
Yeah.
Those three coaches are probably the best three I've worked with in terms of their ability to put together, based on what they've got at their disposal, a group that works exactly to how and what's required. You know, footballers want to know what they're doing and want to. So in terms of how we played, I think in the main we played with a diamond formation.
Yeah.
We'd switch Wes to be the tip of the diamond.
Mate, you're making me emotional thinking about this.
So we got to a point where we kind of brought in lads like Simeon Jackson. Anthony McNamee had done really well the year before.
Because he played for Colchester in League One, right?
No, Anthony McNamee's
Oh, did he?
retired now.
Yeah, but no. At the time, when you guys tongued us 7-1, was he not playing for Colchester at that point? Or was he
No.
playing for Ipswich at that
I
point?
don't know where he was.
Because he did all these dangling clubs, didn't he?
I think he was
sure.
at Dons for a little while.
Or am I
wasn't
thinking
he?
of? Sorry, I'm thinking of it. Lisby. I'm on.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin Lisby, yeah.
I'm miles away.
No,
Kevin Lisby.
He's also retired now.
Not surprised.
But he still plays a little bit of football.
Does he?
Because he was at young lad when I was at Charlton. So I think it was Ollie Johnson who had played in League One. So
Ollie
what
Johnson.
Ian, remember
There's
that
a name.
one? I think it was Stockport we took him from, but it was difficult to get him in because obviously the money was real. But everyone kind of that Ian identified was he knew that if they needed a certain amount of development, he could do that. But at that point and that time, they would be suited for what we needed. You know,
You're saying so much about Ian Culverhouse. So are you saying that, because I hear this all the time from people, that Ian did so much, particularly in that championship campaign. You talk about things like formation and stuff.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
all.
even realise that.
Oh yeah, we were very good with our formations. We were quite fluid. We could switch
Certainly
to
fluid,
different
yeah.
things. Simeon Jackson, we knew would play with Holty up top, and that they would complement each other. Occasionally, we had to go with one at top, but they spent hours with Simeon on the training pitch with pads, what have you, kind of developing his movement, his timing, what have you. And it paid dividends, didn't it?
Yeah,
But it's all that hard work that's off the pitch, that's
Yeah.
on the training pitch that people, you know, essentially don't really see on a Saturday, but appreciate it when it goes well. You know, so we got to a point. It was around Christmas time where we thought, you know what,
Hello.
we can do this. Hang on, we can get to the playoffs here.
And when does that switch from okay, we're consolidating to blimey, like we're in a
Well,
good
you're
place
either
here?
the hunted or the hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were always the hunters.
Right.
You know, and we'd played some sides. You know, Cardiff, I remember, had loads of money. Leeds, I remember. Swansea.
Yeah.
You know, the
Some
money
big
that had
sides, yeah.
invested kind of.
Yeah.
Southampton, were they in our league at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went up with them, didn't we?
Yeah, did we play him in League One as well?
Swansea.
Drew,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
'Cause Pardew was the manager, wasn't he? So it got to around that time, we thought, right, so then we started to plot a little plan of games, 3 games ago, what we would expect. Without telling the players, we kind of affected their mindset.
Okay.
And then we got when I knew, or when we knew, I think we played Cardiff. It was about, I think it was at home. And I remember that Russ was primarily doing a job on Bellamy.
Yeah.
And I remember Ian said, listen, keep getting forward because he ain't going to come back with you. He won't come. I think Russ scored in that game, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken. Did he score against Cardiff?
I think he might have done. He scored a lot of goals in his time.
Yeah,
Russ.
we beat Cardiff. And when we had beaten Cardiff, we thought, do you know what, we can do this.
Yeah.
And then it was just the players knew, you know, their mindset was one of, you know, wasn't like, it was one of bang, we can do this.
So you told them after that Cardiff win?
No,
Or did you reveal
we didn't
it
have
them?
to.
You didn't?
We didn't have to tell the players anything. But as long as we knew, because what you want to do, listen, if you put pressure on a group, you know, it's how you deliver it to them, how it's that self-belief, it's that kind of understanding of what's required and the belief that they can do it. Because some of them players, if you looked at them, we didn't really have household names in that squad.
Not at all.
Players that had no divine right to the outside world or to the media or to play in the Premier League, but every single one of them deserved to play in the Premier League. Elliot Bennett, you know, everyone deserved by virtue of how hard they worked and how hard they kind of mixed together. And then it was, I think, the day we got promoted. I remember, the 2 goals I remember the most. Michael Nelson's goal against Charlton.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then the Simeon one against Portsmouth.
That was on the beanback at Carrow,
Yeah.
Nelson versus Charlton, that was.
So Cardiff, I think, had played earlier that day. So we knew if he'd won that game, then we were up.
Yeah.
And it was real nerves. But he did it, Simeon, to be fair. And it was that never say die one, like the Derby game.
Yeah.
But now, that's why you can relate now to that.
Yeah.
because now the lads now they just can't be beaten. All right, it will happen to you, but you'll learn when it comes. And they're a young squad.
How do you instill that mindset? Because I know, it's very easy from the outside in going, well, it was a very tight-knit group, but we've already heard from you that the planning was intrinsic, it was meticulous.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can teach that mindset, can you? It's almost the culture that
you
builds.
You cultivate it.
So how do you do that?
You cultivate it, and then what you do is you make, first and foremost, you put the idea and the seeds in, and how important everyone is to everyone, and how important it is for everyone to appreciate what everyone does, how important it is to work ever so hard on that training pitch. We knew that, again, beginning of the season till Christmas, we would work ever so hard. We'd have injuries as a consequence, but Christmas onwards, we would be fitter and stronger than a lot of the sides that we would be up against. And the players understood that and put the work in. And it's all about that hard work, and then the results obviously make a difference. Once you start getting the results, the belief starts to kind of, do you know what? Oh, great, and then you're playing sides that you're kind of the underdog, which doesn't hurt, and you're getting results. You're kind of getting a draw, getting a win. It was all about getting your home results and trying to get draws away or what you could away from home. So
as Chris mentions there's a lot of talk about Ian Culverhouse. What's Paul Lambert's role in all of this? Because he was the hero for Norwich fans, and I'm not going to get away from that. Opinions may have changed slightly now, but what's Paul's role in all of this?
Well, the manager's role is front of house, and quite rightly so. And in terms of that role, it is to deliver the expectation and to kind of be at the helm, orchestrating it all.
We're now in the Premier League
with
the big boys.
First game was
Wigan.
We drew 1-1. We should have won that game.
West scored, didn't they?
Yeah, we should have won that game.
Scored a penalty.
Yeah.
Is the mindset still the same, or are you slightly taken away with the Premier League glitz and glamour, the money that suddenly hit you? Or are you still trying to keep that same mindset that's worked so well?
Well, initially, there's an air of apprehension there. It's an unknown territory for the players and the staff alike. So what you do, first and foremost, you keep it as simple as you can. Again, the ethos and the philosophy and the mindset stays the same. We're one group, but you simplify things. You don't over kind of exaggerate situations. You don't start changing the hotels you're in. You don't start to kind of go into areas that might not kind of make a difference. And then you find your feet, and then you know what you need, and then the players start to, again, 1, 2, 3 results, the players' mindset then, do you know what? Yeah. We can do this. We can do this. And then
was there ever a time of egos getting in the way, that suddenly these players have gone from playing at Yeovil away to playing at Old Trafford? Was controlling egos part of the job?
I've seen egos. Not really. If I'm really, really honest, it was the humility was unbelievable, because they appreciated where they were and where they'd got to, and worked ever so hard to stay there. And
they were just grateful to be there, weren't they? Yeah,
grateful, happy to be there, but knew how hard it was to get there, and knew that it would be hard work to stay there. And they did. It was refreshing, to be fair.
Absolutely.
Would you say, I think it was it 13th, 14th we finished that season, an unbelievable season, it must be said. Does that rank in one of the best sort of periods in your career?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it was Tottenham 2-1 the last game of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
It was near the end, wasn't it?
It was, because we went home by train. Because obviously being in London, and we went home by train, and the fans were unbelievable, fantastic, and you thought, but getting promoted in League One, and then Simeon putting that one away to get us there, unbelievable. There are moments that stay with you, and being in the Premier League and getting to that you know, and you know, we were kind of, we wanted to get as high. We, you know, then you become eager and not greedy, but you want to, you know, if the season had gone on another 6 games, we'd have gone another couple of places. No problem with that. Yeah, for sure.
That Premier League season ended up being your final at the club.
Yes.
Just, I know you can't go into too much specifics, but one of the questions we had was from Rory Ives, who said, do you regret leaving Norwich City?
Regret is a strong word, and hindsight is what everyone wishes they had, isn't it? But at the time, initially, myself and Ian were at a point where we may have stayed, given, you know, the situation and given the... But for whatever reason, it wasn't to be. And then we finally went... the way we went, kind of thing, you know, it was one where I got a lovely note from Delia. It was, and I've kept that and I framed it.
Have you really?
Studied, yeah.
Good man.
Such a wonderful family, you know, and such nice people. Michael and Michael Folger as well, you know, and Etty, fantastic people. So that was sad. A tinge of sadness because we didn't really get to say bye-bye to the people we'd worked with, the people we'd shared emotions with, and that kind of. But you know, you do get the opportunities. Like a couple of times, me and Joe Ferrari have kind of like seen and spoken, what have you. So that was a little bit, you know, tinge of sadness with that. But again, life goes on, you know, and you can't sit and wonder what might have been, what should have done, because otherwise, you know, you've got to look forward. Yeah. We had done a great job, I think, you know, and I think we kind of left a kind of lasting impression. And it was a joy. It was a joy to be here. To be fair, it was, you know, a fantastic project, a fantastic journey. But like anything, all journeys unfortunately come to an end, you know, for whatever reason.
Chris, that note from Delia, we've heard many stories like that, haven't we? I think what a wonderful lady and a good owner.
Yeah, I don't think it's just Delia either. I think obviously Gary's mentioned Michael, obviously as well, Delia's mum. I mean, I remember when I was at the club having to lay out some rugs for her to sit on to keep warm, bless her heart, and she goes to every game under the sun. And I think that when you have people at the helm that give that much of a shit, it's so powerful. And obviously a lot of fans, they're not privy to these, they don't hear this stuff, but Delia, and we talk about, we've been Russ Marston in the situation, these are the people that are going above and beyond. They're contacting players, they're probably lifting players when they're low, which makes all the blooming difference. And that, in an essence, is what makes Norwich City special, is that I think that our owners definitely go above and beyond. Yeah, all right, they're down to their last peanuts now, let's not hide that, they are. But my God, do they care. And at the moment, you know, what we're doing is we're really caring, and look where we are in the league, right? You know, and there's a lot of clubs that have splashed a ton of money, way more than us, and they're below us in the league. So that says to me that we're doing things right. All right, we might have a couple of mediocre seasons, but we'll be back up in the Premier League, 100%. Let's
move on to some Twitter questions now. We've got, I think it's fair to say, Chris, the biggest reaction we've ever had, and we've had some decent people on it. So
it's because you buggered off without saying goodbye, and no one's had a chance to ask these questions. We've got some interesting questions, to say the least.
We do indeed. Now, this is an interesting one from our good friend Salute in Trebeni. Good to see you. Now, just here, I'm not sure if you can see it. Croft's number 7 Football League shirt is here. He asks, who was the best player to coach attitude-wise at Norwich?
As a collective, they were brilliant, but again, I keep mentioning his name, but Russell, Crofty...
Which Crofty? We're talking about him?
Andrew,
okay.
Yeah, he was before our time. Okay. Johnny Howson. Holty was superb, to be fair, because he just constantly kept them going, you know, constantly kept on at them. Bradley Johnson just worked his socks off, players, had a little bit about them as well, and dragged everyone at times when they needed to be. It was quite an easy group to coach, it really was. And again, the sessions they'd always want to know, which is a great sign. When a player wants to know what you're doing, it's always a great sign, because then they know it's not going to be monotonous. They know it's Tuesday, it's going to be a work day, we're going to be... It's never like that. Everything was done with the ball, with an intensity that you could relate to a game. The period of training was all related to the 90 minutes on a Saturday, and it was all kind of game related in terms of movement and and how it would help on game day, especially depending on who we were playing, because again it was about identifying the strengths and nullifying them, and then the weaknesses and kind of exposing them, and that's why we were able to kind of get the results.
And did you have kind of analysts doing this for you, or was this your job?
No, initially we just used to watch the clips, and watch the films, and then Gareth come in, a lad, who kind of... But again, in those days, they didn't have the emphasis that they do now, which is it a bad thing? I don't know. You can be baffled with the science of it sometimes, but he kind of clipped the bits that we felt would be relevant for us to use, set pieces, for and against, all that kind of stuff. And I remember when we played Swansea away, the hotel we was in, Swansea had left their kind of before you get a report before a game, don't you?
Yeah.
And Swansea had left their one on us.
Okay.
So we were able to look at that. It was
Thanks very much.
It was superb. But in actual fact, the template was quite good, because they used not diagrams but pictures.
Okay.
Of certain things. So we took it and we looked at it and we thought, that's interesting. Oh, okay. Suffice to say, we won that game. I don't think we ever lost against them. But it was a good template.
Yeah,
it was a good template.
Cheers for your template, Swansea.
Yeah, thank you.
James Edwards, any training ground bust-ups / exciting stories or insider info that can be revealed?
Sorry, quite boring in that respect. I mean, the yellow shirt, sometimes there'd be a tantrum, but nothing, major.
A good group of lads.
Like that.
Jim French, how long did David McNally spend with you after the 7-1? Apparently, the Colchester bus was delayed leaving.
Well,
go on, spill the beans. Go on.
I think we were there for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We were in the lounge. And as far as being delayed, I know it was a long while ago, but I don't think it was delayed any more than usual, if I'm honest. Truth be said, I can't, no.
Brilliant. Right, let's get on to some more questions. Right, Chris, let's get on to this current Norwich City side. It was FA Cup third round weekend, just past the magic of the Cup. QPR got through, well done. Norwich didn't. We lost to League One leaders Portsmouth. Grant Hanley is now suspended. What did you take from that game?
I've got a bit of an unpopular opinion. I found Grant Hanley's red card hilarious. He clattered him. He absolutely battered him.
It was a poor
and if that had been on a Norwich player, I would have been absolutely in uproar on the lower Barclay, shouting and swearing at that. I think sometimes you've got to hold your hands up. We did deserve to go down to 10 men. My absolute compliments are with Portsmouth, because I thought that they were resolute and they defended well. And for me, they deserve to go through. And as we all know, as Norwich City fans, this season we need to concentrate on the league. Last season, the FA Cup provided hope. It provided a platform to say, actually, how far can we push this new culture that we've instilled? So for me this season, of course, we concentrate on the league, and that's the most important thing. And I've got a funny feeling Sheffield United had a similar idea, because of course they lost as well, didn't they? But for me, I'm not bothered at all, and I was really pleased to see quality players like Kenny McLean get a good run out. I was particularly impressed with his performance on the pitch, and I just thought it was nice to see some new players on there giving it their all. And for me, I think that we're going to start to see some of those players actually being bedded into the side now, because injuries are coming thick and fast. And it's funny because Gary, of course, speaks about his time at Norwich City and how they were as fit as fiddles and they worked blooming hard. And yes, there were injuries, but it was that fitness that got those last gasp winners. And that's what's happening now. And I know it's a bit early to say, but listening to Gary and the culture that him and Ian and of course Paul managed to instill, I feel like that is happening now. For me, I ain't worried about the cup. Got to be totally honest with you.
I mean, there were 8 changes, Chris. Any of them 8 changes you think can push into the first 11 in the league?
Look, I'm Jordan Rhodes' biggest fan, and I still want to see us play 2 up top. I'm really sorry. I still want to see us go and dominate teams again because Gary's here. You know, you talk about that whole Jackson, Wes, that attacking, really aggressive diamond that we have. It was unpredictable, and for me, I think that we've got the capability to absolutely override teams. I think potentially we're maybe being a wee bit too conservative sometimes. I think it might be better to actually blast teams and then sit back. But yeah, I think we'll see more of Tommy Tribal. I think we will see Kenny McLean because I think there'll be injuries. And I'm just excited to see those players come in slowly but surely.
It's interesting that, Gary, because I think it was probably under your regime that we last saw 2 out-and-out strikers playing on the pitch at the same time. Yeah. Do you think that kind of formation's died a death?
Yeah, it's not often done now.
No.
First and foremost, you know, it's about keeping clean sheets, about being kind of solid, and it's also not as fashionable as it was. I believe in the Championship, you know, 2 up top whenever possible is, because Championship is, what people have to understand is blood and thunder. It's 2 games a week.
Yeah.
You haven't got to be the most silkiest, but if you work the hardest and if you've got that kind of never say die mentality, you will always kind of beat the teams that haven't. And the results in the Championship, you can actually see that.
Yeah.
Because the teams at the top are kind of define the odds, really. And some of the teams down the bottom, you think, oh, why are they there? But, you know, it's about the mentality of the player, the experience of the player. But in the main, one is kind of the way people go now, isn't it? So, rightly or wrongly, it's just the way football's kind of developed.
From the way you've spoken over this past hour, I've seen a lot of similarities in what you're talking about in that side and your time at Norwich City and the current regime and the current side we've got. How much do you think this current side and the Daniel Farker and Stuart Webber is similar to what you guys created?
Similar, yes. Good group of players. You can see there's no superstars in that side. They all work ever so hard for each other. I think what Stuart's done remarkably well in a short space of time is kind of revamp the whole thing.
Which is what you talked about.
From the training ground to the stadium, the infrastructure in terms of staff. You know, there's a definite plan there, and it's quite evident to see it's a club-driven plan at the moment. It's not individually driven. It's not manager-driven like a lot of clubs. You know, there's a club kind of vision and philosophy, and whoever comes in fits the plan. The plan isn't going to be adjusted to fit anyone or anything, quite rightly so. So where the side are at the moment, I think it's quite fair to say that not a lot of people will have expected them to be there.
Absolutely.
And it's that thing I spoke about, you know, this year was about finding your feet, getting to where, you know, getting to where you want to get to, and then next year would probably be the concerted push.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're quite, I think, the way I've watched a lot of Norwich, they're capable of doing it this year, I think.
Good man. Good
and
one.
I think that if the injuries kind of are at a minimum, there's some good young players.
What's the young player that you're most impressed with? Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, I like him. Good player. He just wants to play football. You could see he works ever so hard as well, and he's very brave for his age. You know, he's quite happy going forward because fullbacks are wingers now. But he likes defending, and that's the key.
Yeah,
you know, he loves defending. So, are Norwich ready for promotion? You only know. You won't know till you get there.
You spoke about that Cardiff game at your time. That was kind of the mental turning point of, you know, you guys thinking we can do this.
Yeah.
Do you think that's happened in this current Farker squad? Do you think they've gone they've looked at each other and gone, lads, we can do this.
Well, the belief is unbelievable. It's quite evident. Again, it's those late goals. They're superb because, all right, it was reverse on Saturday, but you can see by that constant effort and commitment. It was like, don't matter if it's 89th, 90th, 90th. We're going to do this. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And that belief, you can't buy that. And it don't matter how good the individual is.
Yeah.
It's the group that achieves that. It's too early to say. We're I would say to you, just over a halfway past, so just under a half to go. There's a long way. There's a long way to go. But, if it's...
How many games, if we're in the top 2, by which game? When do you think, if Norwich can hang in there, do you think they're capable of automatics? Do you think they're capable of playoffs? Do you think they'll sink a wee bit?
See, I think at the moment it's too early to say. You'd look for playoffs, wouldn't you? But you wouldn't have looked for playoffs, I think, at the beginning of the season.
No.
You'd probably
No
look for
way.
a top half, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
For all the youngsters to get their experience, to get their, kind of the belief, to blood in all the new lads that have come in anyway. But at this moment in time, I think playoffs is a possibility, quite a reasonable possibility. It was probably the Cardiff game. I think it was only 2 or 3 games before the end of the season because it was tight up there.
Yeah.
I remember QPR. Again, if we'd had a couple of games, we'd have caught them.
Yeah.
And then there was that little thing where they were going to get fielded an ineligible player.
Oh, I remember that.
So
that was when they had Abdel Tarak in the team, wasn't it? Yeah.
So you're thinking, surely not.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about having
Yeah,
points.
and we thought we were going to be champions.
So if they'd done that, we'd have been champions.
Oh
would have
my
been.
God.
Listen, the fact we got promotion was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
It was superb. And it wasn't till that late stage because it was tight up there, and given our strength in depth, we didn't really have the divine right. So again, hats off to that group of players. Best group I've worked with, no problem.
What was it like? I've got a question. What was it like being on that open bus tour of the city?
It was superb because the fans are unbelievable at Norwich. And I liken them to the QPR fans. It's a proper kind of working class football club. Norwich is, they say, it's in the middle of nowhere, there's nothing. No, there's loads of things to do nowadays.
Don't tell everyone
It
that.
literally took me an hour and 10 to get here, and it takes me more to get to work.
Yeah.
So they just want, the fans were unbelievable, and they're just so happy that you've done well, and they're so happy and pleased, and they are like it. That's, it's Steve McLaren, what he's done at QPR now. The fans are actually believing, and quite rightly so, because they've had a hard few years at QPR. And one of the reasons, when I spoke to Les and that, was that it was, again, that the philosophy was, in the past, a manager-driven kind of thing. But now it's, again, quite evident, it's a club-driven vision and philosophy. The owners have realised, and to be fair to them, similar to the owners here, they just want the best for the club. And they feel that sometimes it's not just about spending, it's about investing, which is exactly what Norwich are doing now. Norwich are investing, they're not just spending.
And when you say investing, what's your definition of investing? Because everyone's...
Value for money, return on investment. Okay. As simple as that. I mean, if you're taking the 34-year-old on, he will give you that value for the year because you know what you're taking him on for. So his value will probably be points accumulated on the pitch by virtue of him being on that pitch and doing what he's doing. If he's a 21-year-old, you know that, like Maddison, for example, you know that the Murphy twins were here. When we were here, they were training with us, one of them. And they were only young then, like Maddison, look, combined, I think, was it 30 million combined, those two? And that that 30 million, it was in the initial outlay was an investment, be it time and development, a little bit on Murphy, whatever,
Madison.
James Madison. But then you've got that return on investment, £30 million, which means that can be reinvested. So if you're buying a 29-year-old that's been at 7 clubs, you know, and he's coming here, which you had the year before we came, Gunny had the hardest job in the world because of what had happened the year before.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And I remember the last game of the season, people were telling us, by the time the game had finished, there was only 9 players left because everyone had gone.
Yeah.
So he was never going to do that early doors. He was always needed the time, the resources, which unfortunately the club didn't have.
Chris, it's West Brom up this weekend.
Yeah. I'm off. Looking forward to it.
Good. One of your 2 away games of the season?
5. Thank you very much. Fair weather.
It feels like this run is season defining, I would say, in terms of if we want to get into automatics.
Yeah.
West Brom currently 4th in the league, scored the most amount of goals in the league. I think we've scored the 2nd most amount of goals.
Yeah.
I think they've conceded nearly the most amount of goals in the league, and so have we. So probably a 0-0 then.
I think West Brom will be there or thereabouts. Obviously, I was criticised for watching West Brom at Ipswich. I think that I look at West Brom and I think they are shaky at the back.
Yeah.
I think they're more shaky than us at the back, and that's with my Norwich City glasses off, 100%. I remember Jay Rodriguez missing an absolute sitter at Ipswich, and I thought, my God, how have you missed that? Might have just been a one-off. They're coming good now. I'm not.
They did still beat Ipswich though.
Yeah, obviously. But for me, I'm not scared of West Brom as a Norwich fan this season. I'm not. I am worried about Leeds, and I'm anxious about Aston Villa. I'm always a bit worried about Sheffield United, purely because of this weird hatred that our fans have got at the moment. But apart from that, and it's nice, because as a Norwich City fan, I do not fear going away to West Brom. I think we'll go and play football. They're not going to play ugly football, which will play into our favour, because if the ball's on the ground, then we know that we can dominate. We know we can hold possession. And I think that we're obviously going to have some players come back from injury, which is really exciting as well. For me, I'd 100% take a draw. I think that you've quite rightly mentioned, Jack, you know, we've got West Brom, we've got Leeds, we've also got the old enemy as well, obviously in early Feb as well. So we've got some huge games coming up. And I know that we say, these are the next 3 games, but that's the nature of a promotional season, I feel, is that you are always looking at the clusters of games going, cool, these are big games, or all these are big games, because it doesn't matter whether you're playing the top sides or you're playing sides of the bottom, because arguably if you're playing the sides of the bottom, there's more pressure to get the points. Whereas I feel like Norwich City go away now to West Brom, we go away now to Leeds, I'll take 2 draws. That might be me being negative, but for me, at the moment, we're actually performing better away from home. I think that the banana skins come at home for us. So I'm excited for the West Brom game.
Gary, what will be the mindset in that dressing room at the moment? Without a winning 4, depleted squad, West Brom, Leeds, Sheffield United, Ipswich Town coming up. What are you saying if you're back in that dressing room? What's your message?
Every side has a bad patch.
Yeah.
About who they are in that course of the season, they will have a bad patch. Essentially, West Brom are a Premier League squad.
Totally agreed.
I think they're probably under pressure at home to produce results. I think the key is to get any kind of result you can away from home, and then every week players come back, what have you. I don't know, deplete is a strong word.
Well, I think the stat might be wrong now, but I think in our last league game, 40% of our possible starting outfield players were out injured.
Right, okay.
I mean, that's depleted in mine.
But they're all back. But most of them are back.
Yeah, because there's levels of injury,
of course,
kind of thing. So, or there's levels of injury that players could kind of still play, but you choose not to against Portsmouth, for example, which is sensible and understandable. So I think, listen, they're 2 good sides, Norwich and West Brom. It will be a great game. Yeah, and I think they'll probably nullify each other.
Oh, don't say that. I'm going all the way there.
Listen, you should come back you should be happy with a 0-0 draw. Again, you're going away from home. You know, if you get a draw against them, that's a great result. Don't forget last year where they were, and essentially they've kept more than 2/3 of the squad that were there. You know, so draw I think would be a fine result to take away a point.
But isn't that great to have that expectation? And it's not just Gary. I think Norwich fans are of the faith that yes, we can go and beat them, but it's kind of okay if we get a draw.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel in seasons gone by, it's like, well, hang on a minute, we've got a Premier League team. Why aren't we beating them? And the expectations all
well, the Championship, everyone can beat everyone on their day, and that's why I said the blood and thunder of the Championship. Doesn't matter who you are or where you sit in that table, you can become unstuck. So I just think a draw would be a good result. Listen, it may be a win, but what you don't want to do is what you want to do is avoid a loss.
Yeah.
So again, it might be one where you go and you kind of set up in a way to keep it as ugly as you can, keep breaking the flow of it up. Because I know, like Matty Phillips with the balls at his feet, that'll be a contest if Jamal's on his side. If he's on Jamal's side, that'd be interesting. It'd be a great contest there. So yeah, it makes for a good game, actually. And even if it is a draw, I think the type of football both sides play, it will be entertaining.
Yeah, definitely.
It won't be one where it's just bang, edit, bang. It'll be good to watch.
I think I've ticked everything off my hymn sheet. Anything you want to add, Gary, to the viewing for people?
Have you got a message to the Norwich City fans? Because of course you didn't have a chance to say goodbye. I think it'd be very valuable.
It was an absolute pleasure. Just to kind of be involved in that period, which, and you spoke about the 7-1, but we did manage to go and get that 7 back, didn't we? So we did what we did, and I remember I think that game should never have been played.
Snowy,
because it was the pitch was like that much of water. There was poor kids, with those mop things trying to mop up the pitch.
Was that Doherty scored?
Yeah, we beat. Was it 7-2? I think we beat them.
Was it? I think it might. Was it 5 or 6? The
Doc.
I remember the Doc scored.
Yeah.
That's for
so
sure.
That in itself is history, because we've come with one club, then gone back with
Absolutely.
that club and done. So it was an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we've given everyone some good memories, some lasting impressions, and then now it's an exciting time for Norwich. You can feel it, you can see it, the changes, and I think it's testament to Delia and Co. I know what you're saying and but they just want what's best for the club, and they just trust the people there to do that for them, rightly or wrongly. But I think in Stuart and Daniel Fark, I think the best two people at the helm.
Time for 2 league heroes, eh?
I think. Listen, there's the longevity now is it's geared up to be longer. The structure and the infrastructure kind of thing, the foundation, if you like. It is based on is it better planning? It seems to be, because there's kind of a picture, a plan, and you have to, like I said, they're going to fit the plan.
Yeah.
That plan isn't going to be driven by someone's ego or someone's kind of, how they want. It's a club-driven adventure at the moment, and it is really pleasing to the eye. So long may it go on, and. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you so much for your time. It's
an
really
absolute
appreciated.
pleasure.
Gary,
Hope the socks fit.
thanks so much for coming
Yeah,
down.
me too. And
I massively appreciate it.
I'm not sure if them socks will help my football skills, but if they do,
Listen, you're welcome to come and do a bit of walking with me if you like.
walking football, I don't
So,
know. We'll see.
Top man.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Top
Cheers,
man.
fellas.